Yo, nah, you're not ready for this one. Megan Thee Stallion just nuked an innocent woman's entire career, and she didn't even have to say her name out loud. One Instagram story. One cheating accusation. And now, a whole black woman is hiding behind security guards, watching her bag, her podcast, her life get obliterated in real time. Bro, the body count from this breakup ain't Klay Thompson. It's a sister who never even met these people. And Meg's Protect Black Women Army? They really thought hunting down the wrong target was a good look. Before we start, this is Melanin Scope Media. Hit like, subscribe, don't miss what's coming. Alright, pull up a chair, because what we're about to unpack is one of those moments where celebrity breakup stops being a breakup and starts being a crime scene, except the person bleeding out on the floor never even walked into the building. Megan Pete, better known to the world as Megan Thee Stallion, the self-anointed hot girl coach, the woman who built half her post-trial identity on the phrase protect black women, dropped what can only be described as a cheating bomb aimed directly at Dallas Mavericks guard Klay Thompson. And she didn't drop it once. She dropped it twice. First through a scorched earth Instagram story rant, then through a polished, lawyer-approved breakup statement sent to People, E! News, and TMZ on the exact same night. The date? April 25, 2026. A Saturday. Peak engagement hours. The kind of timing that no PR team chooses by accident. Within hours, and I mean literal hours, not days, the internet's amateur detective squad had already pinned the blame on Seattle Storm guard Lexie Brown. And what evidence did they have? What hard, courtroom-grade proof did this digital jury bring to the table? A coincidental Instagram unfollow. That's it. That's the whole case file according to reports from People. Bro. Let me say that one more time so it really lands. Meg's fans built an entire conviction off ONE unfollow button. Two professional athletes, who casually follow hundreds of other athletes, hit unfollow in the same general window, and suddenly the comment sections lit up like the OJ verdict was about to be reread. Meg's fanbase really thought they cracked the case. Y'all played CSI Hot Girl Edition with a woman's entire livelihood. And here's the kicker. Nobody, and I mean nobody, paused to ask the obvious question. Wait, do we actually have any proof, or are we just mad? This is the moment the receipts started piling up. And once you see them lined up next to each other, the whole heartbroken queen versus side chick narrative falls apart like a wet paper bag. So let's stop the speculation, stop the vibes-based detective work, and walk through the actual evidence. Because the timeline tells a very different story than the one Meg stans are selling on Twitter according to reports from Cosmopolitan. Let's start at the beginning, the post that lit the entire fire. On April 25, 2026, Megan Thee Stallion went to her Instagram stories and posted what I can only describe as a thermonuclear vent disguised as a personal vent. Her exact words, and I'm quoting directly, were, cheating, had me around your whole family playing house, got cold feet. Holding you down through all your horrible mood swings and treatment towards me during your basketball season. Now you don't know if you can be monogamous. Then she capped it with, bitch, I need a real break after this one. Bye y'all. When I first read this, I had to do a double take, then a triple take. Then I put my phone down, walked around the block, and came back to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Because this was not a subliminal. This was not a vague I'm going through it post. This was a nuclear press release, wearing a hoodie and pretending to be a vent. Meg said what? You're parading this man around your family and airing him out in the same calendar week? That's the most chaotic timeline I've witnessed all year. The whiplash between playing house and bye y'all is so violent it should come with a neck brace, as reported by Cosmopolitan. Then, and this is the part that proves it wasn't just a moment of weakness, that same day, Meg followed up the Instagram explosion with a formal statement sent to People, E! News, and TMZ. Suddenly the tone shifted. Now we got grown woman language. Her statement read, I've made the decision to end my relationship with Klay. Trust, fidelity, and respect are non-negotiable for me in a relationship. And when those values are compromised, there's no real path forward. I'm taking this time to prioritize myself and move ahead with peace and clarity. That's the corporate PR voice talking. That's not the same person who just typed 4 question marks at the end of monogamous. That's a publicist behind a keyboard, polishing a narrative according to E! News. And here's what stood out to me, man. She went from cussing on the story to philosopher mode in the press release within hours. Pick a lane, sis. You can't ratchet the dust off somebody on IG and then turn around and quote Maya Angelou for People magazine. That's the move of somebody who knew exactly what kind of mob she was about to unleash. That's two strategies executed simultaneously: emotional combustion for the fans, executive composure for the journalists. Both bullets fired, both targets hit. Then the internet went sniffing. And this is where the train officially jumped the rails. Within a day, a viral X post claimed that Lexie Brown was posting messages on her close friends between her and Klay, allegedly saying his romance with Meg was just for social media. 0 screenshots. 0 verified accounts. 0 forensic anything. And the comments section? They treated this anonymous tweet like Moses came down with stone tablets. You really took a random X account as a courtroom exhibit? In what reality is that admissible? In what reality is that even interesting? So on April 26, 2026, barely 24 hours after Meg's bomb went off, Lexi Brown, 31 years old, guard for the Seattle Storm, was forced to respond on her own Instagram stories. Her words: "I've seen what's being said online, and I want to be clear, none of it is true, and I have no involvement in this situation." She added, "This week marks the start of an important and exciting new season for me, and my focus is fully on that." When I saw this, my heart sank a little. This woman is literally about to start her WNBA season, the most important career window of her year, and instead of focusing on training camp, film study, and chemistry with her teammates, she's having to publicly defend her name from a relationship she's not even in, according to reports from Cosmopolitan. Then came April 30th, 2026, and this is when the whole story shifted gears. Lexi sat down with Jackson Thompson of Fox News and let it all out. No filter. No PR coaching. Just a woman tired of carrying water for somebody else's storyline. She said, and I'm quoting, "Me and Klay do know each other, because we both play professional basketball. I would have considered him a friend. I do not know Meg Thee Stallion at all." Pause right there. She doesn't know Meg. At all. Not in passing. Not at an event. Not through a mutual friend. So how exactly is she supposed to be the secret villain of a romance she has no ground floor access to? Then Lexi got real. She said, "I'm still the only person that has denied this entire situation of my involvement, and claimed that this is 100% false. And the fact that I'm still the only one that is defending my name, I have no idea how to process that." Bro. When I heard this clip, I had to rewind it 3 times. 3. Because that line right there, "I have no idea how to process that," is the sound of a person being abandoned in real time. She's out there alone, swinging at ghosts, while the two people who could end this with a single sentence are sipping tea behind the curtain, dropping new singles and hitting Mavs practice, as reported by Fox News. But Lexi wasn't done. She kept going, and this is where the gloves came off completely. She said, "There's this massive outcry for protecting black women, and nobody has mentioned Lexi Brown's name in any of those conversations." Then she delivered the punch that landed hardest of all. Quote, "I was getting threats on my life. I was getting threats on my health. My family started getting comments and threats from people. I've had to hire security to travel with me places. So it got to a point where I was just scared for myself." Yo. I'm not buying ANY narrative that paints Meg as the only victim in this story. Read that quote again. Security. Threats. Family harassed. For a woman with 0 confirmed connection to ANY of this. A WNBA player on a WNBA salary having to pay out of pocket for a personal security detail because of an Instagram rumor she has no part in? That's not girl drama. That's a crisis according to coverage from Sports Illustrated. And the kicker? The absolute coffin nail. Lexi said straight up, "I wouldn't have minded if either one of them came out and said it. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones that are in the relationship. One of them, if not both of them, know that it was not me." Translation? Meg knows. Klay knows. And both of them are letting this sister burn in the public square. That's the moment Meg's Protect Black Women badge officially started looking like Halloween costume jewelry. Now that we've got the quotes locked in, let's connect the dots, because the timeline tells you everything per reports from people. Here's the part nobody's putting together, and it's the part that makes the whole situation look engineered instead of accidental. That Instagram story? Dropped on a Saturday. Peak engagement hours. The exact window when fan bases mobilize the fastest, when algorithms are juiciest, when the news cycle has the least competition. Within 24 hours, the rumor wasn't just trending. It had a name attached to it. That kind of speed isn't organic. That's a fan base that was already loaded, locked, and waiting for a target. And that unfollow situation happened almost simultaneously with Meg's post going viral. Two professional athletes who casually follow each other on IG hit the unfollow button in roughly the same window, and the internet treated it like a fingerprint at a crime scene. Listen, every single NBA and WNBA player follows hundreds of other pros. Unfollows happen weekly for completely random reasons. Maybe somebody got tired of seeing the workout reels. Maybe an assistant manages the account. Maybe they just hit the wrong button. So you mean to tell me the entire internet treated a social media housekeeping decision as a smoking gun? That's the dumbest detective work I've ever seen in my life. Now layer in the bigger context. Megan Thee Stallion is not new to the Protect Black Women brand. She built her entire post-Tory Lanez public identity on it. The Time 100 piece. The New York Times op-ed. The courtroom narrative. The Grammy speech moments. Her brand is black female protection. It's the foundation, the marketing, the merchandise, and the moat. So when her fan base weaponizes itself against another black woman, that's not a malfunction. That's a feature of the system. The brand requires enemies to stay activated. And right now, the enemy slot got randomly assigned to Lexie Brown. Something's OFF here. Man. Something is deeply, structurally, OFF. And remember Meg's Gayle King interview cycle? Same exact playbook. She told one story publicly. The private narrative shifted, and the Protect Black Women Army went radio silent on the contradictions. Now compare that to this. Her breakup statement? Dropped while she was literally about to perform Moulin Rouge on Broadway that same night, where, by the way, she cried on stage post-show in front of a packed audience. The timing wasn't random. It was maximum emotional leverage. You don't accidentally cry on a Broadway stage on the same day you release a breakup statement. Meg's a performer, brew. She knows how to stage a moment. She's been staging them for a decade according to reports from People. And here's the part that's really ugly, the class layer. Lexie Brown isn't an Angel Reese. She's not pulling Caitlin Clark level endorsement money. She's a 31-year-old role player on the Seattle Storm, WNBA minimum salary, a podcast side hustle to stretch the income through the off-season, and a career runway that's tighter every year. That's who Meg's fans collectively decided to hunt? Any smart advisor, any half-competent crisis manager would have told Meg, "Sis, your team needs to publicly deny Lex's name within 24 hours, full stop." That didn't happen. The silence wasn't accidental. The silence was strategic. Either Meg's team is asleep at the wheel, or somebody on that team decided that letting the smoke choke a stranger was acceptable collateral damage. Then came the domino that proves this had real-world consequences. Mariah Rose, co-host of the podcast Full Circle on iHeart Women's Sports Network, a brand-name commentator with a real audience and real industry pull, announced she was leaving the podcast she co-hosted with Lexi. Her last recording date? April 14th, 2026, before the Meg story even broke publicly. So the decision was already made internally. But her public announcement came after the rumor exploded, which made the optics look like she was running from Lexi. The interview she gave happened while the threats were still flooding her OWN DMs too. So the show that was supposed to flip the script on male-dominated sports media just lost half its engine over a rumor that was never even verified according to Mariah Rose's Instagram statement. That business decision? Made significantly easier by Meg's strategic silence. Mariah herself said when she first saw Lex's name flooding the comments, she reached out directly, and Lexi told her flat out, "Girl, it's not me." Mariah believed her, but the threats kept coming. The DM floods didn't stop. The pressure didn't ease. So she made the business call. And brew, Full Circle had 3 million downloads across the iHeart Women's Sports Network. That's not small change. That's not a hobby podcast. That's the kind of platform that pays a WNBA role player's bills in the off-season. That's college tuition money. That's mortgage money. That's the security blanket she leaned on. Now it's bleeding out. And Meg's fans? They did that. With one Instagram story and zero accountability. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Now check this out, because nobody's talking about the actual words Meg picked. And the words matter. Words always matter when a millionaire is the one typing them. Zoom into one specific phrase. Now you don't know if you can be monogamous. 4 question marks. 4. That's not a question. That's an invitation. Punctuation that loud is engineered for the audience to ask, monogamous with WHO. She didn't accuse him of cheating with a named person. She opened a casting call. And the internet auditioned Lexie Brown for the role. That's the problem with that phrasing. It's vague enough to dodge a lawsuit but loud enough to start a manhunt. That's not event. That's a construction. Now zoom into had me around your whole family playing house. That's a specific piece. Why drop the word family? Because family triggers the audience's protective instinct. Oh no, he was using her for the family photo optics. And instantly recruits emotional foot soldiers. That word is doing emotional heavy lifting. This isn't venting, brew. This is recruitment. Any caption that's surgical was written with intent. And the fans really didn't catch that? That's embarrassing. The army is out here playing soldier, and they don't even realize they are following a script that was workshopped in advance. Now flip to Lex's wording. Her denial said, no involvement in this situation. 4 words. Surgical. Lawyer clean. No emotional flourishes. No emojis. No exclamation points stacked 17 high. No room for misinterpretation. Compare that side by side with Meg's emoji-laden, juggling rant. And one of these statements reads like it came from a publicist. The other reads like a Twitter draft typed in the elevator. Guess which one was made under duress, and which one was made with calculation? Yeah, exactly. The cleaner the language, the more honest the speaker. That's a pattern that holds up in every public scandal. Zoom into Lex's Fox News interview, specifically that line. I have no idea how to process that. That microphrase is the tell. That's the moment her voice cracked, metaphorically speaking. She's not angry. She's stunned. People playing offense don't sound stunned. People who got caught doing something do sound rehearsed. Lex's tone is the tone of somebody blindsided. That's not the voice of a side chick caught up. That's the voice of a bystander hit by a stray bullet at somebody else's gunfight per Sports Illustrated. And one more piece, that single word, security. Lexie said she had to hire security. Sit with that for a second. Really sit with it. A WNBA player on a role-player salary is paying out of pocket for personal protection, for a bodyguard, a security detail, an extra layer between her and a public, because of a rumor MEG could have ended with a single tweet. One tweet. That word security is doing more storytelling than Meg's entire IG story. Any smart person on Meg's PR team would have heard the word security hit the news cycle and called an emergency meeting that same hour. They didn't. That tells you exactly where Lexie ranks on Meg's team's concern list. Right next to ignore and just above deny if asked. Now let's see how the media covered all this. People magazine framed this whole situation as Lexie slamming Klay, putting the blame squarely on him for not denying the rumor publicly. Their headline put her name first, treated her as the protagonist of her own defense, and made the death threats angle the center of gravity. That's the responsible framing. They referenced the Fox interview heavily and treated Lex's safety as the lead, not a footnote. That's how you cover a story like this without being complicit per people. But Cosmopolitan framed it differently. They spun it as a rumor cleared up. Softer language. More sympathy distributed evenly across all 3 parties. They treated the cheating allegation and the misidentification as TWO separate stories instead of ONE connected crisis. That's the framing that quietly lets Meg off the hook. That's the framing that turns mob violence into a messy situation. Some outlets really treat black women's collateral damage as a side note in someone else's main plot line. And that's the kind of editorial bias that keeps the cycle spinning according to Cosmopolitan. News played it down the middle, focused on the breakup statement itself, listed Lex's denial almost as a sideby item under related coverage. CBS Sports went even harder than People on the death threats angle, treating Lexi as the central victim and asking the questions Meg's camp clearly didn't want asked. So depending on which outlet you happened to open first, you walked away thinking either Klay's the villain, Meg's the heartbroken queen, or Lex's the forgotten casualty. 3 completely different stories for one situation. That's how modern media works. Same facts, 3 opposite vibes per CBS Sports. Now the counter-narrative. Meg's loyalists are out here saying, Mariah Rose left for other reasons. Don't blame Meg's fans for that. Brew. Mariah said it herself in her own announcement. She said the pressure was real. She said the threats were real. She said the timing was real. These are the same people who thought defending Tory Lanez's pretrial Gayle King phase was a winning play, and we all know how that one aged. If you still think Meg's fanbase is purely protecting black women, after watching one black woman hide behind Hyatt security and another walk away from a 3 million download podcast, you're just biased. The receipts don't lie. The patterns don't lie. The fingerprints are everywhere. But here's what nobody is saying out loud yet. The mainstream narrative wants you to believe this is a romance story gone wrong. Heartbroken rapper. Cheating athlete. Sympathy tour. Moulin Rouge tears. Magazine covers. Vogue feature incoming. That's the comfortable version of this story. That's a version that fits neatly into a 90-second TMZ recap. Here's what they won't tell you. And I need y'all to lock in for this part. This isn't a breakup story. This is a case study in selective black feminism, and Meg's silence is exhibit A that nobody wants to enter into evidence. Look, let's be honest with each other for a minute. The Protect Black Women movement is one of the most important cultural pillars to come out of the last decade. Real talk. After everything black women have endured, from Anita Hill to Meghan herself getting shot, that protective instinct is sacred. It's earned. It's necessary. And it shouldn't be diluted. But somewhere along the line, the slogan got privatized. It got brand-locked. It got moneyized. It got attached to specific names and specific record labels and specific PR firms. And now it only applies to the black women we like. The ones with the followers. The ones with the chart positions. The ones with the right management. The ones who pay the publicist who controls the narrative. Lexie Brown? Wrong tier. Wrong industry. Wrong influence level. Wrong zip code in the social hierarchy. So when the mob came for her, the slogan went silent. The hashtag didn't trend. The think pieces didn't drop. The famous allies didn't speak up. That's the truth nobody on a major platform wants to say out loud. Because saying it out loud means admitting the movement got corrupted somewhere along the way. Now remember those bars about mood swings and playing house. Here's the real reason they hit so hard. They weren't just personal grievances. They were positional declarations. Meg's brand is built on being the standard bearer for unprotected black women everywhere. So when she said cheating, her audience didn't just hear a personal heartbreak. They heard a call to arms. And calls to arms always need a body to march toward. A villain. A target. A name. Lexie Brown is the body. This is how protective movements get hijacked into mob tools. Meg isn't a cartoon puppet master, but she is leveraging a culture she helped build, and right now, she's letting that culture eat one of its own. Some of y'all aren't ready for that conversation, but somebody's gotta say it. That timeline we pieced together in the evidence vault? It reveals something even darker when you zoom out. Mariah Rose's exit isn't about one rumor. It's about how fast black women in media abandon other black women when the optics turn hot. 3 million downloads gone in a week. Poof. And here's the brutal part nobody wants to admit out loud. Nobody's gonna replace Mariah on that podcast. Nobody's gonna step up and take that risk for Lexi. Because the same army that tweets protect black women every 2 minutes wouldn't sit in a podcast booth with a controversial sister for a one-time check. That's not protection. That's PR convenience wearing the costume of solidarity. And here's where it gets even uglier, because we have to talk about it. Meg knows. She has to know. Her team has been watching the same news cycles you and I have been watching. She knows Lexi Hyatt security. She knows the family is getting threats. She knows the podcast collapsed. She knows the WNBA player's name is now stained. And she has said nothing to clear it up. Not a tweet. Not a story. Not a follow-up to her own publicist. Why? Because clearing it up means losing the momentum of her victim narrative. A clean denial. Hey, It wasn't Lexi Brown. Please leave that woman alone. Would deflate the entire sympathy tour instantly. The single rollout would lose its emotional fuel. The Broadway tears would feel performative in retrospect. So Meg's silence isn't accidental. It's transactional. She's paying for her healing era with another woman's career, and the bill is being mailed straight to Lexi. That doesn't sit right with me. At all. Then there's the class angle, and nobody, and I mean nobody in the major outlets, wants to touch this one. Meg is a multi-platinum Grammy winner with a sneaker deal, a Netflix doc, a Time 100 feature, and a Broadway run on her resume. Klay Thompson is a 4-time NBA champion making generational money in Dallas, with a contract that has more zeros than your phone's contact list. Lexie Brown is a WNBA role player who needs every single podcast download to stretch her year. This isn't just a celebrity scandal. This is a power imbalance disguised as girl drama. The people with all the money, all the platform, all the lawyers, all the publicists, and all the legal protection are letting the person with the least resources absorb all the damage. Meg's fans? They are playing checkers thinking they are protecting a queen. Meanwhile, a working-class WNBA player is the one paying for their game. The opposition really thought this was activism? Nah. This is bullying with a hashtag and a hairband. And one more layer. The WNBA itself is in the middle of a once-in-a-generation visibility boom. Caitlin Clark money. Angel Reese partnerships. New expansion teams. Billion-dollar media rights deal. The Storm sold out arenas this past season. This is the last possible moment a player like Lexi Brown should be losing sponsorship-adjacent opportunities because of an unverified Instagram rumor from a totally different industry. The league is finally cooking, finally getting the cultural respect it's been begging for 2 decades, and a hip-hop fan base from outside the sport just torpedoed one of its players over a vibe. The collateral damage here isn't just personal. It's cultural. It's institutional. It's setting a precedent for how future cross-industry beefs will play out. And that's the truth they won't tell you. So what happens next? Here's what's most likely to happen. And write this down, because I'm calling it now. Meg is going to stay silent on Lexi's name. Watch. She's going to do the press tour. She's going to drop a song that references growth, betrayal, and moving on with peace. She'll cry one more time on a red carpet. She'll do a Vogue cover where she stares wistfully out a window in a $4,000 dress. And that will be the official PR closure of this chapter. No correction. No apology. No, by the way, leave Lexi Brown alone. The Lexi chapter just gets quietly buried under a new single rollout and a Fashion Week appearance. Mark my words, within 60 days, Meg will pivot to a self-love era rebrand, and her fan base will move on like nothing ever happened, like Lexi's name was never trending, like the threats were never real. When that pivot drops, Lex is still gonna be the one paying for security details out of her own pocket. Meg's gonna look healed on the magazine cover, while a sister she's never even met is still getting harassed in airports and at gas stations. That silence is gonna hurt Lexi more than any diss track ever could. Silence is the loudest weapon in celebrity culture, and Meg's team knows how to wield it. Klay Thompson? Brew. Klay's gonna do what Klay does. Post a workout video, hit a Dallas Mavericks practice, drop a vague "I'm just focused on basketball right now" interview at a shoot-around, and let the news cycle bury this entire situation. The man hasn't said any word publicly yet, and is not going to say one. He'll let Meg keep the storyline because confirming or denying anything opens up lawsuits, defamation issues, and a TMZ feeding frenzy that follows him for years. Klay's strategy is the silent treatment turned up to 11. Smart for him. Brutal for Lexi. His leaving her in the wind, and that decision is gonna age terrible for his image with black women specifically. The receipts on his silence are being written right now, and he doesn't even know it. Now, if Lexi does respond with a bigger play, a longer sit-down interview with a major outlet, maybe a Breakfast Club appearance, a Joe Budden podcast guest spot, a follow-up with Fox that goes deeper, or even better, a piece in The Athletic or ESPN, that's the moment this story shifts gears completely. If she names names, drops timeline receipts of her own, shows phone records or text screenshots proving zero contact with Klay during the alleged window, the entire Protect Black Women army is going to get caught with their pants around their ankles. And Meg's silence suddenly looks like complicity, not healing. Watch one good sit-down interview from Lexi, and the narrative flips completely upside down. Meg is not ready for that smoke. Her PR team is not ready. Her fan base is definitely not ready. Now, if the alternative scenario plays out, if Mariah Rose's exit becomes a trend, and other WNBA adjacent partners start quietly distancing from Lexi, dropping podcast spots, pulling sponsorship interest, that's when this stops being a rumor and becomes a career event. A career-altering, contract-impacting, generational money-blocking event. The Storm front office is gonna have to make a public call about how to support her. Sponsors are gonna have to decide whether she's a liability or a victim. And if even any major brand, Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, doesn't matter who, steps up and puts out a "we stand with Lexi Brown" statement, Meg's fanbase loses the moral high ground forever. The first sponsor that publicly aligns with Lexi is going to make Meg's silence look absolutely deafening. And those calls are getting made in conference rooms right now, behind closed doors, while we're sitting here talking about it. Looking at the bigger picture, the cultural picture, this moment is gonna become the case study they teach in media ethics classes 10 years from now. The textbook example of how parasocial fan culture eats real people alive. We're watching the limits of Protect Black Women get exposed in real time, with names and dates and receipts. 5 years from now, when historians break down the 2026 hip-hop news cycle, this isn't gonna be remembered as the Meg-Klay breakup. That's a footnote. It's gonna be remembered as the moment Meg's brand cracked. The moment people started asking out loud, in print, whether her protection slogan was real or rented. That kind of credibility damage doesn't bounce back fast. It lingers. It compounds. It shows up in every future album rollout, every future interview, every future hot girl summer press cycle. And the WNBA? Watch closely. The league is gonna quietly tighten its social media protection policies for its players. There's gonna be a players' union conversation about hip-hop fan bases targeting WNBA athletes, and I mean a real one, with lawyers in the room. Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Adja Wilson, Sabrina Ionescu, all of them are gonna be watching how this resolves because they all know it could be them tomorrow morning when somebody famous decides to subtweet from a hotel room. And the league is going to remember which celebrities respected its players during this moment and which ones didn't. Meg's gonna find that out the hard way at the next WNBA crossover collab she pitches. The doors are gonna start closing quietly, one boardroom at a time. Whatever happens from here, one thing is already crystal clear. Meg has already lost the trust of every black woman who's actually paying close attention to how she handled this Lexie Brown situation. The people watching the receipts. The people connecting the timeline. The people who noticed the silence and clocked it for what it is. And that's a receipt that doesn't expire. That doesn't get buried by a single rollout. That doesn't get washed away by a Broadway curtain call. That sits in the record forever. And when the next Protect Black Women moment comes along, because it will come, folks are gonna remember exactly who got protected and who got fed to the wolves. The hot girl coach taught us a lesson, all right, just not the one she meant to teach. If you made it this far, you already know this is Melanin Scope Media, where we don't follow narratives, we break them. Hit like, subscribe, and stay locked in. Because what's coming next? Trust me, they don't want you to hear it.